Well, my project was quite complex because I had old stables at my disposal which needed to be turned into a dental practice. And I was able to sit down with James from Hague and say, well, these are the parameters we're working with. How are we going to make this happen? And I needed to say to him, well, I had the vision of 5 surgeries with decontamination to fit into one side of what is essentially a U-shaped building. And initially, the U-shaped building was the width of a horse, or the length of a horse, to fit the width of the building, and that's where it comes from. So that was the footprint we were working with, and eventually we decided that we couldn't work with that footprint. We needed to link the 3 sides of the U up and put in a corridor, which would make better use of the space. And so I therefore needed to use an architect, go through planning, and get builders for the job that would do the building. And then that was planned with Hague to do the surgeries I needed on one side, and then the reception at the bottom, and then the admin on the other side. But I also planned into this some future-proof concepts. So I thought, well, if some of the admin space is appropriate now, it might need to be clinical space. So I had a discussion with James at Hague to say, well, these offices, if we were to turn them into surgeries and an imaging room in the future, then what should we do? So we had one room lead lined, which is currently a storeroom, and hopefully that'll be an imaging room in the future. James, with the design, he was very patient because we had several ideas that evolved in time. So the designs needed to be modified, and the limitations of the building were quite considerable. So we had to work with what equipment we could get into what space, and then eventually work out how we would make our compromises. And it was all done to great satisfaction, and integrating the project with so many different people, it was important that things had to be on time, and of course also with everyone has to be on budget. So we were able to achieve that very successfully. So after the initial project, of course, there comes the real world, and the real world is working as a practitioner and wanting your equipment to not let you down. But of course, in the real world, things break down, and therefore it's good to have Hague there, as a backup, to know that they will come and service the equipment in the way that we need it to be, in an efficient way and a timeliest way. And that's why I would have no hesitation in recommending Hague to any of my colleagues.